Good evening, and welcome to Bedtime Sleep Story. Tonight, let us wander together through the quiet ruins of the world into the lost cities that time and silence have gently reclaimed. These were places that once hummed with life: markets and temples, gardens and fountains, streets where children played and lovers met. Then, slowly or suddenly, the people left, and the jungle, the sand, or the sea closed softly over them. We will drift down sunken avenues and across empty plazas, past carved faces half swallowed by roots, and through grand halls where now only the wind moves. There is nothing here to fear and nothing to hurry for. Every one of these cities has already lived its long day and slipped into its long rest, and we are only quiet visitors, walking through at dusk after everyone has gone home. If these gentle journeys help you rest, a soft like or a follow lets other tired minds find this peaceful place too. But for now, there is nothing you need to do. Loosen your shoulders, let your eyes grow heavy, and let the cares of the day fall away like dust settling on old stone. And as the last light fades over the silent ruins, let us begin. Across the world, whole cities have been swallowed by time and quietly forgotten. It is a strange and gentle truth that the earth is dotted with the remains of cities that once thrived and then vanished from memory entirely. Great capitals that held tens of thousands of people, with palaces, temples, and busy streets, fell silent, were abandoned, and slowly disappeared beneath jungle, sand, water, or simply the slow drift of the centuries. For long ages, no one remembered they had ever existed. Then, by chance or by patient searching, they were found again. A temple top rising from the trees, a wall beneath a farmer's field, a sunken street glimpsed through clear water. Each lost city is a whole world that ended quietly. To think of how many such places lie waiting still, unknown beneath the green and the gold of the earth, is to feel the deep, soft silence of the past, holding its forgotten cities gently in the dark. Pompeii was buried in a single day and preserved almost perfectly. In the shadow of a great volcano in Italy stood the lively Roman town of Pompeii, full of shops, baths, gardens, and homes. Then, in a single terrible day, the volcano erupted, and the town was buried deep beneath ash and stone, lost and forgotten for many centuries. Yet that very burial became a strange gift to later ages, for sealed beneath the ash, Pompeii was preserved almost exactly as it had been on its final morning. When it was rediscovered and slowly uncovered, people found streets, houses, paintings, and even loaves of bread still in the ovens. Walking its quiet lanes today, one can see Roman life frozen in time. To imagine Pompeii as it sleeps now, its empty streets and silent rooms holding the shape of an ordinary day from 2,000 years ago, is to feel time itself stand gently still. Machu Picchu rested hidden on a mountain ridge for centuries. High in the Andes of Peru, on a narrow ridge between green peaks, the Inca built the beautiful stone city of Machu Picchu, with its terraces, temples, and finely fitted walls. After the fall of the Inca Empire, the city was left, and the cloud forest slowly grew over it, hiding it from the wider world for hundreds of years. Local people knew it was there, but to most of the world, it was utterly unknown until an explorer was led up the mountain and found it waiting among the mists. It remains one of the most breathtaking places on earth, its gray stones perched among the clouds. To imagine Machu Picchu through all those quiet centuries, empty and serene upon its high ridge, the mountains rising around it, and the clouds drifting through its silent streets, is to picture one of the most peaceful lost places the world has ever kept. The great Maya cities were swallowed whole by the rainforest. Across the lowlands of Central America, the ancient Maya built magnificent cities with towering stone pyramids, vast plazas and palaces, home to great populations and rich in art and learning. Then, over a few centuries, many of these cities were abandoned, their people drifting away, and the rainforest closed over them completely. Trees grew through the temples, vines wrapped the carvings, and the cities vanished beneath the green canopy, lost for 1,000 years. Explorers later found them by chance, stumbling upon pyramids rising eerily from the jungle. Many more surely still lie hidden beneath the trees. To imagine these great Maya cities sleeping beneath the rainforest, their pyramids draped in roots and moss, monkeys and birds moving through halls where kings once ruled, is to feel the patient power of nature, softly reclaiming the works of humankind across the quiet centuries. Petra was carved directly into rose-colored cliffs and then nearly forgotten. In the deserts of Jordan lies Petra, an astonishing city carved straight into the soft rose and gold sandstone cliffs by the Nabateans, a people grown rich on the caravan trade. Its grand temple fronts, tombs, and halls were cut into the living rock, reached through a long, narrow gorge that opened suddenly upon their glory. For a time, Petra flourished as a great crossroads of trade, but as routes shifted and earthquakes came, it slowly emptied and faded from the wider world's memory. Known only to local Bedouin for centuries, to the West it was a legend until rediscovered. To imagine Petra now, its carved facades glowing in the desert light, its empty halls cool and silent within the cliffs, the wind whispering through the gorge where caravans once passed, is to picture a city that did not fall so much as quietly return to the rock it was born from. Angkor was once the largest city in the world. Then the jungle took it. In the forests of Cambodia spread Angkor, the vast capital of the Khmer Empire, which at its height may have been the largest city on earth. Home to perhaps 1 million people, its great temples, above all the magnificent Angkor Wat, rose amid an immense network of canals, reservoirs, and roads, a marvel of engineering and beauty. In time, the empire weakened. The capital was largely abandoned, and the jungle moved in, wrapping the temples in roots so vast they seemed to flow over the stone like water. Some temples were never quite forgotten, but the true scale of the lost city emerged only slowly. To imagine Angkor in its silence, its towers rising above the trees at dawn, great roots embracing the carved walls, and still water reflecting the temples, is to picture one of the most beautiful unions of ruin and nature anywhere in the world. An entire ancient civilization's great cities lay forgotten beneath the dust of Pakistan and India. Thousands of years ago, along the rivers of the Indus Valley, one of the world's earliest great civilizations built large, advanced cities with neat grid-planned streets, fine brick houses, public baths, and remarkable drains and wells. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa held tens of thousands of people and traded across great distances. Then, this civilization declined and its cities were abandoned, and for thousands of years they lay buried and entirely forgotten, their very existence unknown, until they were uncovered in modern times, revealing a sophisticated lost world. We still cannot fully read their writing, so much about them remains a quiet mystery. To imagine these orderly ancient cities sleeping beneath the dust for so long, their brick streets and bathhouses silent and unknown to all the world, is to feel how completely even a great civilization can slip from memory. The legend of Atlantis has enchanted the world for thousands of years. Long ago, the Greek philosopher Plato told the tale of Atlantis, a magnificent island civilization of great power and beauty that in a single day and night of misfortune sank beneath the sea and was lost forever. Whether he meant it as true history or as a story to teach a lesson, no one is certain, and no such island has ever been found. Yet the legend of the sunken city has captured human imagination ever since, inspiring endless searching and dreaming. Atlantis has become the very symbol of the lost city, the drowned world waiting beneath the waves. Perhaps it was inspired by some real flood or vanished place, its memory transformed into myth. To imagine the dream of Atlantis, a gleaming city of legend resting somewhere deep beneath a quiet sea, is to touch the oldest and most beautiful of all our stories about the places that time has taken. A whole Egyptian city slipped beneath the sea and was found again. Off the coast of Egypt, near where the Nile meets the Mediterranean, once stood the busy port city of Thonis Heracleion, a great gateway of trade with grand temples and harbors. Over the centuries, as the soft ground sank and the sea crept in, the entire city slipped beneath the waves and was lost, surviving only as a faint name in old texts. For more than 1,000 years, it lay on the seafloor until divers at last rediscovered it, finding colossal statues, temple ruins, and ships resting in the gentle blue gloom. To imagine this Egyptian city now, its giant fallen statues lying serene on the sandy seabed, fish drifting through sunken temple gates where priests once walked, soft light filtering down from above, is to picture one of the most peaceful of all lost places, a whole city sleeping quietly beneath the sea. Troy was thought to be only a poem until someone went looking for it. For thousands of years, the great city of Troy was known only from ancient Greek poems, telling of a legendary war fought beneath its walls. Most people believed it was pure myth, a city that had never truly existed. But one determined searcher, convinced the old stories held a kernel of truth, went digging at a likely hill in Turkey, and found layer beneath layer the remains of real ancient cities, one built upon the ruins of another, going back thousands of years. Troy, it turned out, had been real after all. The discovery thrilled the world and showed that legend can hide history within it. To imagine Troy, its old walls and gates uncovered at last upon their windy hill above the sea, a city that lived first in poetry and then proved real, is to see the gentle place where story and history quietly meet. A great Native American city once stood where few now know to look. Long before Europeans arrived, near where the great Mississippi River flows, stood the city of Cahokia, the largest city in North America north of Mexico, home to many thousands of people. Its builders raised enormous earthen mounds, including one so large it remains among the biggest earthworks in the world, topped once by a grand structure overlooking a busy city of homes, plazas, and markets. Then, over time, Cahokia was abandoned, its people dispersing, and its great mounds settled quietly into the landscape, their story half forgotten. Today, many are surprised to learn such a city ever existed. To imagine Cahokia in its day, its great mounds rising above a bustling city beside the wide river, and then to picture those same mounds now, grassy and silent under the open sky, is to remember a great lost city hidden in plain sight in the heart of a continent. Çatalhöyük was one of the world's first towns, lost for thousands of years. In what is now Turkey, around 9,000 years ago, people built Çatalhöyük, one of the earliest and largest towns the world had yet seen, where thousands lived packed together in mud brick houses. So tightly were the homes built that there were no streets. People walked across the rooftops and climbed down ladders into their houses. They painted their walls, kept shrines, and buried their dead beneath the floors. In time, the town was abandoned, and its mud brick buildings melted slowly into a great mound, burying the lost town for thousands of years, until archaeologists uncovered it. It gives us a rare glimpse of one of humanity's first experiments in town life. To imagine Çatalhöyük long buried within its quiet mound, its painted rooms and rooftop paths sealed in darkness through the ages, is to picture one of the oldest lost towns of all, sleeping at the very dawn of settled life. The desert city of Palmyra was a glittering oasis of trade. In the middle of the Syrian desert, an oasis gave rise to Palmyra, a beautiful and wealthy city that grew rich as a great crossroads of caravan trade between east and west. Its grand colonnaded streets, temples, and arches rose elegant and pale against the desert, blending the styles of many cultures into something all its own. For a time, it was a powerful place, even ruled by a famous warrior queen. But as trade routes changed and conflicts came, Palmyra declined, and much of it fell to ruin, its splendid columns standing lonely in the sand. To imagine Palmyra at dusk, its long rows of weathered columns glowing gold in the last light, its empty avenues silent where merchants and travelers from distant lands once thronged, is to picture a city that was once a meeting place of the whole ancient world, now resting quietly in the vast and patient desert. The city of Ubar may have vanished into the sands of Arabia. Old legends told of Ubar, a fabulously wealthy city of the Arabian desert, a center of the precious frankincense trade, said to have been swallowed by the sands as punishment or by misfortune. For centuries it was thought a mere fable, a city of myth lost beneath the dunes. Then explorers, using clues from old texts and views from above, searched the desert and found the remains of an ancient trading settlement, built above a great cavern, into which part of it may indeed have collapsed, as the legends hinted. Whether or not it is the true Ubar of story, it showed once more that legends of lost cities can hold real memories. To imagine such a desert city, its ruins half buried in the endless dunes, the wind slowly burying and unburying its stones, is to picture the haunting way the sands of Arabia can hide whole cities within their golden silence. Great Zimbabwe was a mighty African city of stone. In southern Africa stand the remains of Great Zimbabwe, a powerful city built centuries ago by a skilled African civilization, with massive walls of stone fitted together without any mortar. At its height, it was the heart of a wealthy kingdom that traded gold and goods across great distances, even reaching the coast and beyond. Its great curved walls and tall tower are masterworks of building, enclosing what was once a thriving royal city. In time, it was abandoned, and for long afterward, its true origins were wrongly doubted by outsiders, though we now honor it as the achievement it was, the work of a great African people. To imagine great Zimbabwe now, its mighty stone walls, standing silent and golden in the African light, grass growing where King City once thrived, is to picture a proud and beautiful lost city, a monument to a civilization that built to last. The Nabateans built more lost cities than just Petra. The same desert people who carved the famous city of Petra also built other settlements across the dry lands, including the remarkable city of Hegra, far to the south, with its own grand tombs cut into golden desert rock. Like Petra, Hegra was a station on the rich caravan routes, its rock-cut facades standing elegant and solitary in the open desert. For a long time it too lay quiet and little visited, its carved tombs weathering gently under the desert sun, a lost city of striking beauty. These scattered Nabataean cities show how a single clever desert people raised splendor in the harshest of lands. To imagine Hegra now, its great carved tombs rising alone from the sand, their facades glowing in the low light, the desert stretching empty all around in perfect silence, is to picture the quiet, lonely grandeur of a city carved from rock and left to the patient desert. The ancient city of Ur once stood at the very dawn of cities. In the land of ancient Mesopotamia, among the first cities the world ever knew, stood Ur, a great Sumerian city beside the Euphrates, with a towering temple mound called a ziggurat rising at its heart. Thousands of years ago, it was a center of wealth, learning, and worship, its streets and houses crowded with one of the earliest urban populations on Earth. Over the long ages, the river shifted, the land changed, and Ur was abandoned and buried until excavators uncovered its great ziggurat and rich tombs filled with treasures. It is among the oldest lost cities of all, from the very birth of city life. To imagine Ur now, its great stepped ziggurat standing weathered against the Mesopotamian sky, the dust of ages drifting over streets that were old when most of history was young, is to stand at the quiet beginning of the whole story of cities. A buried army of clay guarded a lost emperor's tomb city. Near the ancient Chinese capital of Xi'an, a vast underground complex was built to surround the tomb of China's first emperor, including an entire army of thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each with a unique face arranged in battle formation to guard him in the afterlife. For more than 2,000 years, this great buried host stood silent and forgotten beneath the fields, until farmers digging a well struck the first of the clay warriors. The full scale of the hidden tomb city is still being uncovered, and the emperor's own great burial mound remains sealed. To imagine that silent clay army standing in its dark earthen halls for 2,000 years, rank upon rank of patient soldiers guarding their emperor through all the long centuries, is to picture one of the most extraordinary of all hidden places, a whole army sleeping faithfully in the dark. Skara Brae, a stone village, was uncovered by a great storm. On a windswept island off the coast of Scotland lies Skara Brae, a village of stone houses built around 5,000 years ago, older even than the Great Pyramids. Its homes, sunk into the earth and linked by covered passages, still hold stone beds, shelves, and hearths, as if the people had only just stepped out. For thousands of years, it lay buried beneath the sand and grass, completely forgotten, until a fierce storm stripped away the dunes and revealed the ancient village beneath. It gives us a remarkably intimate glimpse of daily life in the deep past. To imagine Skara Brae now, its snug stone houses huddled against the wind by the gray northern sea, their stone furniture still in place after 5,000 years, is to picture one of the most homely and human of all lost places. A little village quietly waiting through the ages by the sea. Whole cities of the Khmer lie still hidden beneath the Cambodian forest. Beyond the famous temples of Angkor, the Khmer Empire built other great cities across the land, and some have only recently begun to reveal their full size. Using new tools that can see through the forest canopy from above, researchers have discovered the outlines of entire lost cities beneath the trees, with streets, canals, and neighborhoods far larger and more numerous than anyone had guessed. Whole urban worlds, home once to many thousands, lay hidden under the green, their shapes invisible from the ground. To imagine these sleeping Khmer cities beneath the forest, their grids of streets and waterways, traced faintly under the roots and leaves, vast and silent in the green shade, is to realize how much still lies waiting to be found, and to feel the deep quiet of cities the jungle has held secret for 1,000 years. The grand city of Persepolis was burned, but never quite erased. In the heart of ancient Persia rose Persepolis, the magnificent ceremonial capital of a great empire, with vast halls held up by soaring columns, grand staircases carved with processions of every nation, and gateways guarded by stone beasts. It was a place of breathtaking splendor, built to display the power and reach of the Persian kings. Then, in the time of Alexander the Great, the city was burned, and over the centuries that followed it, fell to ruin, its glory fading into the dust of the plain. Yet much of its carvings survived, telling the story of the empire still. To imagine Persepolis now, its great broken columns and carved staircases standing silent on the wide plain, the long lines of carved figures still climbing toward halls that are gone, is to picture the dignified remains of one of the ancient world's most magnificent cities, holding its memory in stone. The Mesa Verde people built their city into the cliffs themselves. In the high desert of the American Southwest, an ancient people built remarkable villages tucked into great alcoves high in the canyon cliffs, with many-roomed houses and round ceremonial chambers sheltered beneath the overhanging rock. These cliff dwellings, reached by handholds and ladders, were sturdy and sheltered, home to a thriving community for generations. Then, within a relatively short time, the people left, perhaps driven away by long drought, and the cliff cities fell silent, preserved by the dry air and the sheltering stone. For centuries they waited, empty until they were found again. Found. To imagine these cliff dwellings now, their stone rooms nestled high in the canyon walls, glowing warm in the desert light, empty doorways gazing out over the valley where their people once farmed, is to picture one of the most striking of all lost places, a whole town built into the living cliff and left to the silence. A lost city of gold drew explorers to their doom for centuries. Among the most powerful of all legends is El Dorado, a rumored city or kingdom of gold somewhere in the depths of South America, where, the story said, a king covered himself in gold dust. The dream of finding it lured explorer after explorer deep into the jungles and mountains, on expeditions that often ended in hardship and disappointment. For the Golden City was never found. It may have grown from a real ceremony, in which a chief was indeed covered in gold dust upon a sacred lake, transformed by retelling into a city of endless treasure. The lost city of gold remained always just beyond reach. Is just to imagine the dream of El Dorado, a gleaming golden city hidden somewhere in the green vastness, forever sought and never found, is to feel the powerful pull that lost cities have always had upon the human heart. The longing for the wonder just beyond the trees. The ash of a volcano preserved a town's final living moments. When the great volcano buried Pompeii, it also buried its smaller neighbor, the seaside town of Herculaneum, but in a different way. Here, deep hot ash sealed the town so completely that fragile things survived, which almost never last. Wooden furniture and doors, food, and even scrolls of papyrus, carbonized but whole. The town was preserved in extraordinary detail beneath many meters of hardened ash, holding the texture of daily Roman life. Buried so deeply it lay hidden far longer and is uncovered only slowly and with great care. To imagine Herculaneum sleeping beneath the ash, its wooden beds and doors, and its library of blackened scrolls held perfectly in the dark for 2,000 years, is to feel how a moment of disaster became, across the ages, a gift of memory, keeping one ordinary town exactly as it was on its final ordinary day. Mohenjo-Daro had bathrooms and drains finer than many cities for ages after. Among the lost cities of the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-Daro stands out for its astonishing planning. Built thousands of years ago, it had straight streets laid out on a grid, brick houses with their own wells and bathrooms, and a remarkable system of covered drains running along the streets to carry away waste, comforts that would not be matched in many cities for thousands of years afterward. At its center stood a great public bath, carefully sealed to hold water. It was a clean, orderly, well-run city, home to many thousands. Then, it was abandoned and forgotten for ages. To imagine Mohenjo-Daro in its prime, its neat brick streets and tidy homes, its great bath gleaming with water, all the quiet machinery of a well-planned city humming along thousands of years ago, is to feel a surprising kinship with a lost people who valued cleanliness and order as much as we do. The lost city of the Incas was finally found by following the clues of legend. When the Spanish conquered the Inca Empire, the last Inca rulers retreated to a hidden refuge deep in the mountains and jungle, a final capital called Vilcabamba, from which they resisted for years before it too fell and was abandoned, swallowed by the forest and lost. For centuries, explorers searched for this last city of the Incas, sometimes mistaking other ruins for it, until at last the true site was identified deep in the wild. It was the final stronghold of a great empire, its end hidden by the trees. To imagine that last Inca city in its jungle silence, the place where a proud empire made its final stand and then faded into the green, its stones now wrapped in roots and mist, far from any road, is to picture the quiet, poignant end of one of the great civilizations of the Americas. Whole Roman cities lie buried beneath the fields of Europe. Not all lost cities are dramatic ruins in jungles or deserts. Many lie quietly beneath ordinary farmland. Across what was once the Roman Empire, the buried remains of Roman towns and villas rest under green fields, their streets and walls invisible from the surface, betrayed only by faint marks in the growing crops or by the plow turning up old stone. From the air, in the right light, the ghostly outlines of entire vanished towns sometimes appear in the grass, their plans drawn by the differing growth of plants above buried walls. Whole communities sleep beneath the pasture. To imagine a peaceful European field today, cattle grazing in the evening light, and to know that just beneath the soil lie the silent streets, forums, and homes of a Roman town, its people gone for 1,500 years, is to feel the deep past resting gently and unseen beneath the quiet present. A storm and a falling cliff revealed a lost world beneath the sand. Many lost cities were found not by grand expeditions, but by accidents of nature, a storm, a flood, an eroding cliff, or a shifting dune laying bare what had been hidden for ages. A great wave might strip a beach to reveal ancient walls. A collapsing riverbank might expose old foundations. Drifting sands might uncover a buried temple, only to bury it again. The earth seems to keep and reveal its secrets in its own slow time. Many of the most important discoveries came simply when the land chose, for a moment, to show what it held. To imagine the quiet drama of such a discovery, a fierce night of wind and water, and then, in the calm morning after, the astonished finder gazing at ancient stones the storm has uncovered, walls and rooms that no one had seen for 1,000 years, is to feel how the earth itself gently returns its lost places to the light. The grand city of Carthage was destroyed, then rose and was lost again. Across the sea from Rome stood Carthage, a great and wealthy trading city that for centuries rivaled Rome itself, until in a long and bitter war, Rome utterly destroyed it, leaving its site in ruins. Yet the place was too valuable to stay empty, and a new Roman Carthage rose upon the ruins of the old, becoming a major city in its own right, before it too declined and fell in later ages. So the site holds layer upon layer of lost cities, one civilization built upon the ruins of another. Today, quiet ruins by the sea are all that remain of both. To imagine Carthage now, the scattered stones of two great vanished cities resting together by the blue Mediterranean, where mighty fleets once sailed and great powers clashed, is to feel the long, layered memory of a place that rose, and fell again, and now rests in peace. The whole of an ancient Greek city sank gently into a lagoon. Off the coast of southern Greece lies the sunken town of Pavlopetri, one of the oldest submerged cities in the world. Its streets, houses, and tombs, laid out clearly on the shallow seafloor, drowned thousands of years ago as the land settled and the sea rose. Snorkelers and divers today can swim above its ancient plain, tracing the outlines of buildings and roads in the sand below, a complete town map preserved beneath the clear water. It is so well laid out that we can see exactly how its people arranged their lives. To imagine this sunken town now, its quiet streets and house foundations resting on the pale seabed in the gentle blue light, fish drifting where families once lived, the whole shape of an ancient community softly held beneath the waves, is to picture one of the most peaceful lost cities imaginable, a town asleep beneath a calm and sunlit sea. The city of Nineveh was once the greatest in the world. In ancient Mesopotamia stood Nineveh, capital of the mighty Assyrian Empire, and in its day, perhaps the largest city on earth, ringed by great walls and filled with grand palaces, gardens, and one of the first great libraries, where thousands of clay tablets preserve the knowledge of the age. Then, the empire fell. The city was destroyed and abandoned, and over time, it vanished beneath great mounds of earth, so completely that some doubted it had ever truly existed. Centuries later, excavators dug into the mounds and found the palaces and the precious library, recovering whole lost works of ancient literature. To imagine Nineveh in its glory, the greatest city of its world, and then to picture it buried and silent beneath the mounds for thousands of years, its libraries of clay sleeping in the dark, is to feel how the mightiest of cities can pass entirely from memory and then quietly return. An ancient city in Turkey was carved partly underground. In the region of Cappadocia in Turkey, where the rock is soft and easily cut, ancient people carved not only homes, but entire underground cities, vast networks of rooms, passages, wells, and chambers, dug many levels deep into the earth, able to shelter thousands of people, along with their animals and food stores. These hidden cities, with their cleverly carved ventilation shafts and great rolling stone doors, could be sealed against danger, and people sheltered in them for ages. Some lay forgotten until a wall was knocked through and a whole buried city was found beneath a house. To imagine these underground cities now, their silent stone passages winding deep beneath the hills, level upon level of carved rooms where whole communities once sheltered in the cool dark, is to picture one of the strangest and most ingenious of all lost places. Entire cities hidden, not in jungle or sea, but within the earth itself. The buried city of Akrotiri was a Bronze Age wonder, lost to a volcano. On the Greek island of Santorini long ago stood the flourishing town of Akrotiri, a sophisticated Bronze Age settlement with multi-story houses, fine drainage, and walls painted with beautiful, vivid frescoes of nature and daily life. Then a colossal volcanic eruption buried the town under deep ash, preserving it remarkably well, while the eruption itself reshaped the very island. For thousands of years, Akrotiri lay sealed beneath the ash, its painted rooms intact, until it was uncovered to reveal its glowing frescoes and elegant homes. Some believe its memory may even have helped inspire the legend of Atlantis. To imagine Akrotiri now, its silent rooms still bright with paintings of swallows and lilies and ships, a whole beautiful town held perfectly beneath the ash of an ancient catastrophe, is to picture a lost city that kept its art and grace intact across all the long, dark centuries of its sleep. Some lost cities were found by reading clues in ancient books. Many vanished cities were rediscovered not by chance, but by careful reading, scholars poring over ancient texts, old maps, and travelers' tales, piecing together where a forgotten place might lie. Then going to look. A line in an old chronicle, a name in a list of conquests, a description by an ancient geographer, each could be a thread leading back to a real lost city waiting beneath the ground. Patient study in libraries often came before the spade ever touched the earth. The lost cities were found twice, in a sense. First in faded words, then in solid stone. To imagine a scholar bent over an ancient manuscript by lamplight, tracing a forgotten name and realizing it points to a real place no one has seen for 1,000 years, and then journeying out to find it exactly where the old words promised, is to feel the quiet thrill of the past reaching forward to guide us back to itself. The Etruscan cities of the dead outlasted the cities of the living. Before Rome rose to greatness, the Etruscans flourished in Italy, building cities and a rich culture. Much of their world has been lost. Their cities of the living largely vanished or built over, but their cities of the dead remain. Vast cemeteries of carved tombs, some shaped like houses and streets, laid out like quiet towns for the departed. Inside, the walls were painted with scenes of feasting, dancing, and daily life, glowing pictures of a people who loved life dearly. Through these silent necropolises, we glimpse the Etruscans far better than through their lost living cities. To imagine these cities of the dead now, their rows of carved stone tombs lining quiet lanes, their inner walls still bright with paintings of joyful banquets, is to picture a strange and gentle kind of lost city, where the homes of the dead have kept the memory of the living across thousands of patient years. A great lost city of Africa traded gold across the desert. On the southern edge of the Sahara stood the city of Timbuktu, which grew fabulously wealthy as a center of trade in gold and salt, and above all, as a great seat of learning, home to famous libraries and universities holding hundreds of thousands of precious manuscripts. So distant and rich was it that in far-off Europe its very name became a byword for the most remote and mysterious place imaginable, a city half of legend. Though Timbuktu never truly vanished, It faded from the wider world's knowledge as trade routes shifted, becoming a kind of lost city of the mind, doubted and dreamed of from afar. To imagine Timbuktu in its golden age, its scholars bent over countless manuscripts, caravans of gold and salt arriving across the dunes, a city of learning glowing at the desert's edge, is to picture a place that was real and wondrous, even as the distant world wondered whether it existed at all. The lost city of Helike sank in a single terrible night. In ancient Greece stood the prosperous city of Helike until one night a great earthquake struck, and the sea rushed in, and the entire city sank beneath the waves of the Gulf, drowned with its temples and its people. For centuries afterwards, sailors said they could still see its ruins beneath the water, and its sudden watery end made it famous throughout the ancient world. A real city lost to the sea. In time, it was forgotten and its exact site lost, until modern searchers traced its remains, not in the open sea, but buried in the silt of an ancient lagoon. To imagine Helike on its last night, a living city swallowed gently and forever by the dark water, and then resting through the ages beneath the silt, is to feel the haunting power of the cities the sea has taken, the drowned places that gave the world its enduring dreams of sunken towns. A whole pirate city slid into the sea in an instant. On the island of Jamaica once stood Port Royal, a bustling and notorious town, famous as a haven of pirates and one of the busiest, richest ports of its age. Then, in a great earthquake, much of the city slid suddenly into the harbor and sank beneath the sea, drowned in a matter of minutes, its streets and buildings coming to rest on the sea floor. For long afterward it lay submerged, a whole town preserved beneath the water, until divers explored its sunken streets, finding everyday objects frozen in the moment of disaster. Even a watch stopped at the very time the sea rushed in. To imagine Port Royal now, its old streets and houses resting quietly on the seabed where ships once crowded the harbor above, the whole life of a roaring port stilled forever beneath the gentle water, is to picture one of the most vivid of all sunken cities, a town caught in a single moment and kept. Some lost cities are slowly drowning even now. The making of lost cities is not only an ancient process, it continues in our own time, sometimes by our own hand. When great dams are built and valleys flooded to make reservoirs, the towns and villages within them are submerged, becoming new lost cities beneath the rising water, their streets and homes and churches resting quietly on the lake bottom. In times of drought, when the waters fall, these drowned towns sometimes rise briefly back into view, their old buildings emerging streaming and silent before sinking once more. They are lost cities being made before our eyes. To imagine such a place, a whole village resting beneath the still surface of a lake, its houses and lanes intact in the green underwater light. And then, in a dry season, slowly reappearing as the water sinks, ghostly and dripping, is to see the ancient story of the drowned city quietly repeating itself, gently in the present day. The grand city of Ephesus was abandoned when its harbor filled with mud. The great Greek and Roman city of Ephesus, on the coast of what is now Turkey, was one of the most important cities of the ancient world, home to the famous Temple of Artemis and to a vast theater and grand marble streets. Its life depended on its busy harbor, but slowly, over the centuries, the river that fed the harbor filled it with silt until the sea retreated far away and the harbor became a marsh. With its lifeline gone, the great city slowly declined and was at last abandoned, left to fall quietly into ruin, the sea now miles distant. To imagine Ephesus now, its magnificent marble library and great theater standing silent and empty, its harbor long since turned to green fields, the sea that once lapped its docks, now far away beyond the plain, is to picture a city that was not destroyed but simply, gently, left behind by the changing land. A lost city of the desert was rediscovered from high above. Some lost cities are simply too vast or too hidden to recognize from the ground, and were truly seen for the first time only from the air or from space. From high above, the faint lines of ancient walls, roads, and canals stand out against the desert or the forest in ways invisible to someone standing among them. Whole forgotten settlements have been mapped this way, their patterns emerging like writing on the land when viewed from far enough away. Satellites now help searchers find lost cities across the world's most remote places. To imagine a stretch of empty desert that seems featureless to anyone walking across it, and then to see it from far above, where the buried outline of a great lost city suddenly appears, its streets and squares traced faintly in the sand, is to feel the quiet wonder of finding a whole vanished world that was hiding all along in plain sight beneath the open sky. The Anasazi built a city of great houses and then walked away. In a desert canyon in the American Southwest, an ancient people built Chaco Canyon, a remarkable center of grand multi-story stone buildings, called great houses, with hundreds of rooms aligned carefully with the movements of the sun and moon, linked to distant settlements by long, straight roads. For generations, it was a hub of trade, ceremony, and gathering across a wide region. Then, perhaps as long droughts came, the people gradually left, and the great houses fell silent in the dry canyon. They remain remarkably preserved in the desert air. To imagine Chaco Canyon now, its massive stone great houses standing empty and golden beneath the wide desert sky, their many rooms silent, the long roads leading off to other places now empty too, is to picture a center of a whole ancient world gently abandoned, a great gathering place left to the sun, the wind, and the deep quiet of the canyon. A city of windmills and canals lies sunk beneath a Chinese lake. Beneath the waters of Qiandao Lake, in China, rests the ancient town of Xicheng, a beautiful old walled city of temples, arches, and carved stone, deliberately flooded when a dam was built, sinking the whole town gently beneath the new lake. Because it lies in the still, deep water, the city has been wonderfully preserved, its stone archways and carvings remaining sharp and intact, where in the open air they might have weathered away. Divers who descend into the green depths find an entire old city waiting in the gloom, its streets and buildings serene beneath the water. To imagine Xicheng now, its elegant carved gateways and temple walls resting perfectly preserved in the quiet dark of the lake, fish drifting slowly through its sunken streets, an entire old city held in cool, still water, is to picture one of the most beautiful of modern lost cities, a town kept safe and silent beneath a peaceful lake. A lost city was hidden inside a mountain of jungle for centuries. Deep in the rainforests of Honduras, legends long told of a lost white city, a great settlement hidden in the dense jungle of the interior, abandoned and never found. For a long time it was thought mere legend, until explorers using scanning tools that see through the forest from above detected the clear outlines of a large ancient city beneath the trees, with plazas and earthworks, and then journeyed in on foot to confirm it. They found a place untouched for centuries, the forest grown thick and silent over its ruins. To imagine that lost city in the deep jungle its plazas and mounds buried beneath untouched rainforest, vines and great trees covering the work of a vanished people, animals moving through ruins no human had walked for ages, is to feel the enduring power of the jungle to hide whole cities and the enduring human longing to find them. Old roads lead to cities that no longer exist. Sometimes the first sign of a lost city is the road that once led to it, an ancient causeway, a paved way, or a worn track running across the landscape toward nothing now visible. Such roads, built to carry trade and travelers to a thriving place, outlast the cities they served, pointing like patient fingers towards sites swallowed by jungle, sand, or time. Following an old road to its end has more than once led searchers to a forgotten city at the other end. The path remembers the destination, even when the destination is gone. To imagine walking such an ancient road today, a long, overgrown way, leading off through forest or desert toward a place that vanished long ago, the road still faithfully pointing the way to a city that exists now only beneath the earth, is to feel the quiet persistence of the past, its old paths still gently guiding us toward the lost places at their ends. The Romans' grandest seaside resort now lies beneath the bay. Along the coast near Naples lay Baiae, the most luxurious resort of the Roman world, where the wealthy and powerful built lavish villas, heated baths, and pleasure gardens by the warm sea. But the same volcanic forces that warmed its waters slowly lowered the land, and over the centuries much of glittering Baiae sank gently beneath the bay, its marble halls and statues coming to rest on the shallow seafloor. Today divers and glass-bottomed boats pass over its sunken streets, where mosaics and columns lie clear beneath the calm water. To imagine Baiae now, the playground of emperors, resting quietly on the sandy seabed, its mosaic floors and fallen statues dappled with shifting light, fish drifting through villa rooms where Rome's grandest once feasted by the sea, is to picture a city of pleasure, gently claimed by the very waters that once made it famous, sleeping now in the warm and shallow blue. The capital of the world's first empire has never been found. More than 4,000 years ago, a king named Sargon built the world's first true empire in Mesopotamia, ruled from his great capital city of Akkad, which old texts describe as wealthy and magnificent, the heart of a realm that stretched across the ancient Near East. And yet, of all the lost cities, Akkad is among the most tantalizing, for it has never been found. Despite long searching, no one today knows for certain where this famous capital stood. It vanished so completely that even its location was forgotten. It waits still, somewhere beneath the plains of Iraq, a great city known from many ancient writings, but never yet seen by modern eyes. To imagine Akkad, the celebrated capital of the First Empire, lying undiscovered beneath the dust for over 4,000 years, its location a mystery even now, is to feel the deepest silence a lost city can hold, a place famous in memory yet utterly hidden in the earth. An entire empire's capital was lost so completely the empire itself was forgotten. In ancient Turkey stood Hattusa, the great capital of the Hittite Empire, a major power of the ancient world that rivaled Egypt. The city was vast, ringed by mighty walls, with gates guarded by carved lions and sphinxes, filled with temples and royal archives of clay tablets. Then the empire collapsed, the city was abandoned and burned, and over time both the city and the very memory of the Hittites faded away so completely that for thousands of years the world forgot this great power had ever existed. Only when Hattusa was uncovered and its archives read did the lost empire return to history. To imagine Hattusa now, its great lion gate standing silent on the windswept highland, the foundations of its temples quiet beneath the grass, a whole forgotten empire's heart resting in the stillness, is to feel how completely the past can vanish, taking even the memory of mighty nations into its deep, soft silence. A great city was so old that even the Aztecs found it abandoned and full of wonder. In the Valley of Mexico rose Teotihuacan, one of the largest cities in the ancient world, with its enormous pyramids of the sun and the moon and its long grand avenue, home once to a vast population. But it flourished and fell long before the Aztecs came. By the time they found it, it had already been abandoned and silent for centuries, so awe-inspiring in its ruin that the Aztecs believed it was the place where the gods themselves had been born, and gave it the name we still use, for its true, original name is lost to us. A great city was already an ancient mystery to a people we ourselves call ancient. To imagine Teotihuacan now, its mighty pyramids rising along the silent avenue, a city so old it was legend even to the Aztecs, its real name vanished into the deep past, is to feel layer upon layer of time, lost cities within lost cities. The oldest city in the Americas slept unknown beside the desert. In a desert valley in Peru lie the remains of Corral, among the oldest cities in all the Americas, built nearly 5,000 years ago, around the same time as the first Egyptian pyramids, by a people who raised great flat-topped mounds and sunken plazas long before most of the famous civilizations of the region. For thousands of years, its dusty mounds lay quiet and unrecognized, mistaken for natural hills, until archaeologists realized that here was a city from the very dawn of urban life in the Americas, peaceful and sophisticated, with no signs of warfare. To imagine Corral now, its ancient mounds and round sunken courts resting in the dry desert valley, a city from the deep beginnings of American civilization, sleeping silently for 5,000 years beneath the sun, is to feel the astonishing age of the human story in the Americas and the deep quiet of a city that stood at its very start. The desert swallowed the Silk Road cities and kept their people whole. Along the ancient Silk Road, at the edge of the great Taklamakan Desert in western China, once stood thriving oasis cities like Lulan, watered by rivers and rich with trade between east and west. Then the rivers shifted and dried, the desert advanced, and these cities were abandoned and buried beneath the sand, lost for many centuries. The dry desert preserved them remarkably, even keeping the bodies of their ancient people naturally mummified, their faces and clothing still intact after thousands of years. Explorers later found these silent cities and their sleeping dead emerging from the dunes. To imagine Lulan now, its ruined walls and dwellings half buried in the endless sand, the desert that destroyed it also keeping it, its long departed people resting peacefully beneath the dunes with their faces still serene, is to picture one of the most haunting of all lost cities, a Silk Road oasis gently mummified by the patient desert. A city that was once among the largest in the world is now empty desert. In the deserts of Central Asia lie the vast ruins of Merv, an ancient Silk Road city that, at its height, may have been one of the largest cities in the entire world. A glittering oasis of palaces, mosques, libraries, and gardens, watered by a great network of canals. Then disaster and the shifting fortunes of history emptied it. Its canals fell into ruin, and the great city slowly crumbled back into the desert from which it had risen, its millions of bricks dissolving into mounds of earth. Today, its enormous, ghostly ruins stretch across the sands, vast and silent. To imagine Merv now, the eroded walls and domes of a city that once teemed with hundreds of thousands of people standing lonely in the desert wind, oasis gardens long since turned to dust, is to feel the immense rise and quiet fall of a place that was, for a time, among the greatest cities on the whole of the earth. The Amazon rainforest hides cities no one knew were there. For a long time, the Amazon was thought too harsh to have held great settlements. Its rainforests believed to be untouched wilderness. But new tools that map the ground beneath the trees have revealed a surprise. The remains of large, complex societies with towns, raised fields, roads, and great earthworks hidden beneath the forest, home once to far more people than anyone had imagined. Whole networks of ancient settlements lay concealed under the green, their builders gone and their works swallowed by the jungle. The Amazon, it turns out, holds lost cities of its own. To imagine these forgotten Amazonian settlements, their plazas and causeways and gardens buried beneath the rainforest, a whole vanished world of people who once shaped the great forest, now sleeping silently under the canopy, is to realize how much of the human past remains hidden, and to feel the deep, green quiet of cities the jungle has kept secret for centuries. A desert people built a hidden empire on water drawn from underground. In the heart of the Sahara, long ago, a people called the Garamantes built a flourishing civilization in one of the driest places on earth, with towns, farms, and trade sustained by an ingenious system of tunnels dug far underground to gather precious water from deep beneath the desert. For centuries they thrived where survival seemed impossible, until the underground water slowly ran out and their civilization faded, their towns abandoned to the encroaching sand. Once dismissed as mere desert raiders, they are now recognized as the clever builders of a lost Saharan society. To imagine the Garamantes towns now, their mud brick ruins standing quiet in the deep Sahara, the long dry tunnels that once brought them water running silent beneath the dunes, a whole civilization that bloomed and faded in the desert's heart, is to picture one of the most remarkable and forgotten of lost worlds. A green dream sustained for a time in an ocean of sand. A magnificent Indian city was abandoned and left to the boulders. In southern India spread the great city of Vijayanagara, capital of a powerful and wealthy empire, one of the largest and most splendid cities in the world in its time, filled with grand temples, palaces, markets, and waterworks, set among a dramatic landscape of giant boulders and rocky hills. After the empire fell in battle, the great city was abandoned and slowly fell to ruin, its temples and palaces left among the rocks, its bazaars silent, its vast and beautiful ruins still spread across the landscape today. To imagine Vijayanagara now, its carved temples and royal courts, standing weathered among the strange and ancient boulders, the long stone streets of its markets empty, where once the wealth of an empire was traded, monkeys and parrots moving through the silent halls, is to picture a city of extraordinary beauty, gently abandoned to the timeless and dreamlike landscape of stone in which it was built. Thousands of villages across Europe were quietly abandoned and lost. Not all lost places were great cities. Across Europe, the faint traces remain of thousands of small medieval villages that were simply abandoned, their people gone, leaving only gentle bumps in the fields where houses and lanes once stood. Some were emptied by plague, some by changing climate or hard times, some when landowners cleared the people away. Over the centuries, the abandoned villages melted into the grass, their churches sometimes left standing alone in empty meadows, their streets become faint green hollows. They are lost places hiding in the ordinary countryside. To imagine such a deserted village now, a quiet field where the soft outlines of old houses and a sunken lane can still just be traced in the turf, perhaps a lone weathered church keeping watch over a community long gone, is to feel how even small, humble places slip away into silence, leaving only the gentlest of marks upon the patient land. A Norse colony in Greenland flourished, then vanished into the ice. Over 1,000 years ago, Norse settlers from Iceland sailed to Greenland and built farms and churches along its green southern fjords, living there, raising cattle and sheep for some 500 years. Then, slowly, as the climate cooled and times grew hard, the settlements faded, contact was lost, and at last the Norse of Greenland vanished entirely, leaving only their ruined stone farms and churches behind, their exact fate a quiet mystery. For centuries, the wider world did not know what had become of them. To imagine those Norse settlements now, the roofless stone walls of their farms and little churches, standing silent among the Greenland grass by the cold fjords, a whole community that lived and worshipped and then slipped away into the deepening cold, is to feel the lonely poignancy of a lost colony at the edge of the world, its story ending softly in snow and silence. A city of 1,000 churches stands empty on a lonely plateau. On a windswept plateau near the border of Turkey and Armenia stand the ruins of Ani, once a great and prosperous medieval city, capital of a kingdom, so rich in fine churches that it was called the city of 1,001 churches. It thrived as a center of trade and faith, home to 100,000 people. Then wars, earthquakes, and shifting trade routes emptied it, and the great city was slowly abandoned, left alone on its high plateau, its many beautiful churches standing roofless against the sky. To imagine Annie now, its elegant stone churches and cathedral standing solitary and majestic on the empty wind-blown plain, ravines falling away on either side. The wind moving through grand halls where a great city once worshipped and traded is to picture one of the most hauntingly beautiful of all lost cities, a place of soaring faith, left utterly alone with the sky and the wind. The greatest library of the ancient world was lost and grieved ever since. Not every lost treasure is a city of stone. Some are cities of the mind. The great library of Alexandria in Egypt gathered the largest collection of knowledge in the ancient world, hundreds of thousands of scrolls holding the learning, literature, and science of many peoples. Over time, through fire, neglect, and the slow changes of the ages, this incomparable library was lost, and with it, untold works that have never been recovered, plays, histories, and discoveries gone forever. Its loss is mourned as one of the saddest in all of history. To imagine the great library in its glory, its halls and shelves filled with the gathered wisdom of the world, scholars reading quietly by lamplight, and then to feel its slow and total vanishing is to grieve gently for a different kind of lost city, a city of books and knowledge whose disappearance left an emptiness in human memory that has never been filled. Beneath many living cities lie the lost cities that came before. Some of the most thoroughly lost cities are not in jungles or deserts at all, but directly beneath our feet, in the heart of cities still alive. Great old cities like Rome, London, and Istanbul are built upon layer after layer of older settlements, so that beneath the modern streets lie buried Roman roads, ancient walls, forgotten rooms, and even whole underground levels of older towns, glimpsed only when builders dig deep for new foundations. The living city rests gently upon the bones of all the cities that came before it. To imagine the quiet, ancient streets and rooms hidden directly beneath a busy, modern city. A Roman floor here, a medieval wall there, whole layers of vanished life pressed silently into the earth below the traffic and the lights, is to feel the astonishing depth of time underfoot. Lost cities, sleeping patiently beneath the cities of today. A drowned town rises from the water whenever the drought is deep. In a valley in Spain, and in many other places around the world, an old village was flooded long ago to make a reservoir, sinking its houses and church beneath the still water. But in years of severe drought, when the reservoir falls low, the lost village slowly rises back into the light. Its weathered buildings, an old bridge emerging, streaming from the receding water, briefly walkable again before the rains return and the water rises to cover it once more. People come to wander its muddy streets in those rare dry seasons, visiting a town that is usually beneath a lake. To imagine such a place, an old stone village, resting quietly beneath the surface of a calm reservoir, and then, in a parched summer, rising ghostly and dripping back into the sun for a little while before sinking again, is to see a lost city that gently comes and goes with the falling and rising of the water. The temples of Tikal rose like mountains from the Guatemalan jungle. Deep in the rainforest of Guatemala stood Tikal, one of the greatest cities of the Maya, with towering stone temple pyramids rising high above the forest canopy, grand plazas, palaces, and reservoirs, home once to tens of thousands. After its decline, the jungle swallowed it utterly, and for 1,000 years its great temples stood hidden among the trees, known only to the forest and to a few. When explorers found it, the tallest temples broke through the canopy like gray peaks. To imagine Tikal now, its mighty temple pyramids rising from the sea of green at dawn, mist drifting between them, the calls of howler monkeys and birds echoing through plazas where a great civilization once gathered, is to picture one of the most magnificent of all lost cities, where the works of an ancient people stand among the trees like a range of man-made mountains, rising serene above the endless forest. LiDAR lets us see whole lost cities through the trees in an instant. For most of history, finding a lost city beneath a forest meant hacking through the jungle, foot by difficult foot, often missing what lay all around. Now, a remarkable tool called LiDAR, which bounces countless pulses of light down from an aircraft, can map the bare ground beneath even the densest canopy, stripping away the trees in the resulting image to reveal what lies below. With it, researchers have suddenly discovered vast lost cities, whole landscapes of streets, temples, and fields, in places long thought empty in a matter of hours. It is changing our whole picture of the past. To imagine flying above an unbroken green forest that hides no visible sign of human life, and then seeing the LiDAR image appear, the trees vanished and a great lost city revealed in ghostly detail beneath, its avenues and pyramids laid bare, is to feel the quiet thrill of a new age of discovery, seeing the hidden past as if by magic. The Khmer were lost masters of water, and their great works lie buried still. The vast Khmer cities around Angkor were sustained by one of the most ambitious water systems ever built, an immense network of canals, channels, and enormous reservoirs that captured the seasonal rains and spread them across the land, feeding a huge population. When this great web of waterworks at last fell into disrepair, perhaps amid changing climate and shifting fortunes, The cities it sustained could no longer thrive, and they were slowly abandoned to the forest. The faint traces of these mighty waterways still lie across the landscape, mapped now from above. Now, to imagine the Khmer cities at their height, their great reservoirs shining like inland seas, and their canals threading life through a vast metropolis, and then to picture those same waterworks silent and overgrown, the engineering marvel that built the cities, outliving the cities themselves, is to feel how even the cleverest works of a great people can pass gently into the keeping of the patient land. The dry air of the desert keeps lost cities almost untouched. Among all the keepers of lost cities, the desert is the gentlest preserver, where jungle destroys with roots and damp, and the sea dissolves and encrusts. The dry desert air keeps things astonishingly whole. Wood, cloth, paint, and even the bodies of the dead can survive thousands of years in the rainless sands. Desert lost cities often emerge with their mud brick walls still standing, their colors still faintly bright, their everyday objects intact, as if the centuries had barely touched them. The very dryness that emptied them of life also keeps them perfectly. To imagine a desert lost city uncovered from the sand, its walls still standing, a painted room still glowing softly, a basket or a sandal lying just where it was left 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, is to feel the strange tenderness of the desert, which takes the life from a place and then keeps its body lovingly, almost unchanged, through all the long, dry ages. Local people often knew the lost city all along. It is worth remembering that many famous lost cities were never truly lost to everyone, only to the distant and the powerful. Time and again, the explorers who triumphantly found a hidden city were simply led there by local people who had always known it was there, farming beside it, telling stories of it, living in its shadow for generations. The city was lost only to the outside world's books and maps, not to the people of the place. There is a gentle truth in this, that the past is often quietly held by those who live closest to it. To imagine a local farmer or guide leading a wandering explorer to ruins they themselves had known their whole life, the great discovery being for them simply a walk to a familiar place, is to feel how memory lingers softly in the lands where these cities stood, kept alive by the people who never went away. Most cities were not destroyed, but simply gently left. When we picture a lost city, we often imagine some great catastrophe, a fire, a flood, an earthquake, a war. But in truth, most lost cities met a quieter end. They were not destroyed, but slowly abandoned, as their people drifted away over years or generations in search of better land, water, or fortune, until at last the streets stood empty and the buildings began their slow return to the earth. The ending was usually not a sudden tragedy, but a long, soft fading, a city growing quieter and emptier until one day the last family closed their door and walked away. To imagine such a gentle ending, a once busy city slowly hushing over the years. Fewer fires lit each night, grass creeping into the lanes until at last it stands silent and whole beneath the moon, is to feel that the loss of a city is most often not a violence, but a quiet, natural passing into rest. When the water failed, the cities followed. Of all the reasons cities were abandoned, one returns again and again across the world: water. So many lost cities, in deserts, on plains, and jungles, fell silent when the water that sustained them changed or failed. A river shifting its course, a spring drying up, the rains faltering for years, a harbor silting closed, or a great irrigation system breaking down. A city can survive almost anything but the loss of its water, and when that lifeline is cut, even the grandest place must eventually be left. Water made the cities, and the loss of water unmade them. To consider how many great lost cities share this quiet ending, thriving as long as the water flowed and fading when it failed, is to feel the deep dependence of all human places upon the gentle gift of water, and to see in their silence the patient power of rivers and rains, to give life to cities and to take it softly away. Some cities emptied when a sickness passed through the land. Among the quiet causes that have emptied cities and villages across history is disease. When great waves of sickness swept through the ancient and medieval world, some towns lost so many of their people, or were so frightened and disrupted that they never recovered, and were left to fall silent and empty. Survivors moved away, fields went untended, and the place slowly returned to the wild. These are among the saddest of lost places, emptied not by the slow drift of fortune, but by sudden sorrow. Yet, even here, time brings a gentle peace, the grass growing soft over the quiet streets. To imagine such a town, hushed by loss long ago, and then left to the patient years, its lanes now green and silent, its sorrow long since faded into the calm of nature, reclaiming all, is to feel that even places born of grief are gathered in the end, into the same deep and healing quiet that holds all the lost cities of the world. Most of the world's lost cities have still never been found. Perhaps the most wonderful thought of all is how much remains hidden. For every lost city that has been rediscovered, many more surely still lie waiting, unknown and unseen, beneath jungle and desert, field and sea. The new tools of discovery reveal more every year, hinting that the earth holds far more vanished places than we ever guessed. Whole cities, whole peoples, still rest undisturbed in the silence, their stories untold, waiting patiently for the day, perhaps far off, when they will be found, or perhaps never to be found at all. To consider the countless lost cities still hidden across the world tonight, sleeping undiscovered beneath the green and the gold and the blue, each a whole vanished world held quietly in the dark, is to feel the deep and gentle mystery of the past, vast and patient, keeping more secrets than we will ever know, resting peacefully until their time. A whole civilization was forgotten, leaving only a palace and a legend. On the island of Crete, thousands of years ago, flourished the Minoans, one of Europe's earliest great civilizations, with grand palaces, beautiful art, and busy trade across the sea. The greatest of these was the Palace of Knossos, a sprawling maze of rooms, courtyards, and corridors, painted with graceful images of dolphins, bulls, and elegant people. In time, the Minoan world declined and was forgotten so completely that it survived only faintly in the Greek legend of a great labyrinth on Crete, home to a creature half man and half bull. Then excavators uncovered the vast palace, and the lost civilization returned to history, the labyrinth of legend revealed as a real and wondrous place. To imagine Knossos now, its painted halls and winding passages, quiet upon their hill, a whole forgotten people remembered for an age only as a myth, is to feel how history can hide itself within a story, waiting to be found. A whole inhabited land lies drowned beneath the North Sea. Long ago, when the seas were lower, the place that is now the cold North Sea was dry land, a rich landscape of hills, rivers, marshes, and forests where ancient people hunted and lived. Then, as the great ice melted and the waters rose, this whole country, now called Doggerland, was slowly drowned, swallowed entirely by the sea until it vanished beneath the waves. For thousands of years, it has lain on the seabed, and fishermen still sometimes haul up ancient bones and tools from this sunken world in their nets. It is not one lost city, but a whole lost land. To imagine Doggerland now, its drowned hills and valleys, resting silent beneath the gray waves, the forests and camps of an ancient people, held deep beneath the fishing boats that pass above, is to feel the vast, gentle power of the rising sea, which has hidden not just cities, but entire countries within its quiet depths. A giant tree grew slowly over a temple and became part of it. At the temple of Ta Prohm, among the ruins of Angkor, the jungle was deliberately left as it was found. And so visitors see one of the most extraordinary unions of stone and life anywhere on Earth. Enormous trees growing directly out of the temple, their pale roots pouring over the walls and through the doorways like frozen waterfalls, holding the ancient stones in a vast embrace. Over centuries, the trees in the temple have grown together into a single thing, neither fully ruin nor fully forest. It is hauntingly beautiful, the very image of nature gently reclaiming the works of people. To imagine Taproam now, its carved galleries wrapped in the great smooth roots of silk cotton trees, soft green light filtering down through the leaves onto fallen stones, the slow, patient embrace of the forest holding the temple close, is to picture the tender, unhurried way that nature takes back, in the end, all that we build. A modern town of fortune is slowly filling with desert sand. Not all lost cities are ancient. Some are being lost in our own time. In the desert of Namibia stands Kolmanskop, a town built barely a century ago when diamonds were found in the sand, a place of grand houses, a ballroom, and fine gardens that flourished briefly in the dunes. When the diamonds ran out, the people left, and the desert began quietly and steadily to move back in, too. Now the sand pours through the doors and windows of the empty mansions, filling the elegant rooms waist deep, dunes rising inside the houses where families once danced. To imagine Kolmanskop now, its faded grand rooms half buried in drifting sand, doorways opening onto rooms full of dunes, the desert flowing slowly through a town abandoned within living memory, is to see the making of a lost city happening gently before our eyes, and to feel how swiftly the patient sand reclaims whatever people leave behind. A modern city was given back entirely to the forest. In what is now Ukraine stands Pripyat, a city built in the 20th century for the workers of a great power station, home to nearly 50,000 people, with apartment blocks, schools, a hospital, and an amusement park. Then, after a disaster at the plant, the whole city was evacuated in a single day and never re-inhabited, left exactly as it was. In the decades since, nature has poured back in. Trees grow through the pavements and up through the buildings. Moss covers the schoolrooms and wild animals roam the silent streets. It is a lost city of our own age, returning swiftly to the wild. To imagine Pripyat now, its empty apartment towers wrapped in young forest, its quiet streets green and overgrown, deer and wild horses moving through a city emptied in an afternoon, is to see how quickly and how gently nature reclaims even the cities of the modern world, given only a little time and silence. The boomtowns of the gold rushes emptied as fast as they grew. When gold or silver was discovered in the mountains and deserts of the American West and elsewhere, towns sprang up almost overnight, swelling with thousands of hopeful people, with saloons, shops, and houses thrown up in a frenzy. But when the gold ran out, these towns emptied just as quickly. abandoned within a few years, left to the wind and the weather as ghost towns. Their wooden buildings still stand in many a lonely valley, weathered gray and silent, doors creaking, a whole town hushed and empty beneath the wide sky. To imagine such a ghost town now? Its old wooden storefronts and empty houses standing along a dusty street that leads nowhere. The desert wind whistling softly through broken windows where a brief, hopeful boom once roared, is to picture the quickest of lost cities, places that lived and died within a single human lifetime, and now rest quietly with their forgotten dreams of gold. Great Viking trading towns vanished so well, their sites were nearly lost. In the Viking Age, busy trading towns grew up along the northern coasts. Places like Hedeby and Birka, crowded with workshops, merchants, and goods from across the known world, among the largest settlements of their time in the north. Then, as trade shifted and times changed, these towns were abandoned, and they faded so completely that they survive now only as grassy banks and mounds, their bustling streets and harbors gone quiet beneath the turf. Beneath those gentle green ramparts lie the remains of whole towns where the Vikings traded and lived. To imagine these vanished northern towns, their crowded wooden streets and busy harbors, now only soft ridges and a quiet meadow by the water, the ships and the markets and the voices all long gone into the grass, is to feel how even the lively trading hearts of a famous people can settle, in the end, into the gentlest and greenest of silences. Many Maya cities may have been abandoned when the rains failed. One of history's great quiet mysteries is why so many of the magnificent Maya cities were abandoned within a few centuries, their populations melting away and the jungle moving in. There was no single dramatic fall. Rather, it seems a combination of troubles, and chief among them, many believe, were long and punishing droughts, years when the rains that fed the cities faltered, straining their water and their fields beyond endurance. Slowly, city by city, people drifted away, and the great centers fell silent. The Maya people themselves did not vanish, only their grand cities did. To imagine those proud cities in their last days, the reservoirs low, the people gradually leaving for kinderlands, the plazas growing quiet and the forest creeping closer each year, is to feel the gentle, gradual way that even a brilliant civilization's greatest cities can be let go, return softly to the patient green from which they rose. A hidden Maya temple kept its paintings glowing for centuries. Deep in the Mexican jungle lies the small Maya site of Bonampak, whose modest temple holds an extraordinary treasure. Rooms covered wall to ceiling in vivid painted murals, scenes of ceremony, music, and court life, glowing with blue, red, and gold, among the finest paintings to survive from the ancient Americas. Sealed and protected within the deep jungle for over 1,000 years, the colors remained astonishingly fresh, giving us a rare, living glimpse of the Maya world as its own people saw it. To imagine those painted rooms now, hidden in their quiet jungle temple, the walls alive with processions of nobles in jaguar skins and feathers, musicians and dancers caught mid-motion, the ancient colors still bright in the dim, cool light, is to feel a lost world reach out and touch us directly, not through cold stone, but through warm and vivid art, kept safe for us across the long centuries by the silence of the forest. Many cities were lost when the earth itself trembled. Of all the forces that have ended cities, few are as sudden as the earthquake. Across history, great quakes have toppled walls, swallowed streets, and dropped whole coastal towns beneath the sea in moments, ending cities that had stood for ages in a single, violent breath of the earth. Many of the world's most famous sunken and shattered cities owe their end to the trembling ground, especially in those beautiful regions where the land is restless. Yet after the shaking stops, a deep calm returns. To imagine such an ending and its aftermath, a city stilled at last beneath the sea or the rubble, and then the long, quiet centuries that follow, the waters growing calm again above the sunken streets, the grass softening the fallen stones, is to feel how even the most sudden of endings gives way, in time, to the same deep and patient peace that gathers all lost cities gently to itself. Fishermen still pull the ancient past up from the sea. In waters all around the world, where sunken cities and drowned lands lie on the seabed, fishermen going about their ordinary work sometimes haul up more than fish: ancient pots, carved stones, bones, and tools, brought up tangled in their nets from the lost worlds below. For generations, such finds have hinted at the cities and landscapes hidden beneath the waves, and many a sunken site was first suspected because of what the nets revealed. The sea quietly hands up pieces of the past to those who work upon it. To imagine a fisherman at dawn drawing in the nets and finding among the catch an ancient jar or a worn carving, lifted gently from a drowned city far below, is to feel the quiet, ongoing conversation between the present and the sunken past, the sea offering up, now and then, a small token from the silent cities it holds within its depths. For many lost cities, we have forgotten their true names. It is a quiet sadness that for a great many lost cities, we do not know what their own people called them. The names we use are often given later by those who found them, or borrowed from a nearby village, or taken from an old legend, while the true name, the one spoken with love by those who lived there, has slipped away entirely. A city can be uncovered stone by stone, its streets and homes laid bare, and yet its real name remain forever a mystery. To imagine a great lost city, every part of it studied and known, and yet its true name lost, the word its own children called home now gone beyond recovery, is to feel one of the gentlest and most touching kinds of loss. That even when we find a vanished city again, some part of its soul, the simple sound of its name, may rest forever silent in the deep past. Sometimes a single inscription finally gives a lost city back its name. Just as many lost cities keep their names hidden, now and then a wonderful thing happens. An inscription is found, carved in stone or pressed in clay, that names the city at last, and a place known only by a modern label suddenly recovers its ancient, rightful name. A king's proclamation, a temple dedication, a humble record of goods. Any of these might hold the lost name, waiting through the centuries to speak it again. In that moment, the city becomes a little more truly itself. To imagine the quiet thrill of such a discovery, an archaeologist brushing the dust from a worn inscription and slowly reading, for the first time in thousands of years, the true name of the silent city all around them. The very word its people once spoke with pride is to feel the past gently breaking its long silence, a lost city quietly telling us, at last, who it really was. The smallest everyday objects in a lost city move us the most. In the ruins of lost cities, it is often not the grand temples or palaces that touch the heart most deeply, but the small, ordinary things: a child's toy, a worn sandal, a cooking pot, a comb, a scratched game board, a loaf of bread turned to stone. These humble objects, left behind in the rush or the slow drift of departure, speak directly of the real people who live there, of their daily lives, their children, their small comforts and habits. A palace impresses, but a child's toy makes us love them. To imagine finding such a thing in a silent ruin, a little carved animal a child once played with, lying just where it was dropped so very long ago, is to feel the lost city become suddenly achingly human. No longer a place of history, but a home where people exactly like us once lived and laughed and loved before the long quiet came. The walls of lost cities still hold the voices of ordinary people. In some lost cities, especially those preserved by ash or dry air, the walls still carry the writing of everyday people, scratched messages, names, jokes, prayers, advertisements, and complaints, the casual graffiti of the living. At Pompeii, the walls are covered with such notes: a person declaring their love, another praising a friend, a shopkeeper listing prices, a tired traveler simply marking that they were there. Across 2,000 years, these humble words reach us with startling warmth and familiarity. To imagine reading such a message today, scratched slightly on a wall by an ordinary person going about their day in a city that would soon be lost. A few idle words never meant to last, yet surviving when palaces fell, is to hear the actual voice of someone long gone, speaking quietly across the centuries, and to feel how very near the people of the lost cities truly are. Uncovering a lost city is the work of patience, brush by gentle brush. The finding of a lost city is rarely the dramatic adventure of stories. Far more often, it is slow, careful, painstaking work. Archaeologists uncover the past, not with haste, but with patience, scraping away thin layers of soil with small trowels and soft brushes, recording the exact place of every object, working through heat and dust for season after season to reveal a single building or street. It is a labor of deep care and quiet devotion, treating each fragile trace of the past with tenderness. To imagine an archaeologist kneeling in the sun, gently brushing the dust of ages from an ancient floor, uncovering inch by patient inch the work of people who lived thousands of years ago, handling each small find with reverence, is to see that the past is recovered not by force, but by love, by the slow, careful, respectful attention of those who wish to understand and remember. What survives of the lost cities is precious and fragile. The traces that lost cities leave us are easily harmed, and much has been lost not only to time, but to carelessness and greed, sites looted for treasures to sell, ruins damaged by haste, fragile things crumbling once exposed to the air. And so, a quiet duty has grown to protect what remains, to study it gently, to guard it for those who come after. Each lost city is a unique and irreplaceable window into a vanished world. And once a piece of it is destroyed, that window is closed forever. To consider how fragile these survivals are, how a careless hand can erase in a moment what survived 1,000 years, is to feel the deep value of patience and care toward the past, and the gentle responsibility we hold to keep the lost cities safe, so that their quiet stories may go on being read by minds not yet born. Lost cities live a second life in art, story, and dream. Beyond their stones, the lost cities live on powerfully in our imagination. For centuries, painters have pictured romantic ruins glowing at sunset. Poets have mused among fallen columns, and storytellers have spun endless tales of hidden cities and sunken worlds. The lost city has become one of our most beloved images, a symbol of mystery, of lost grandeur, of the romance of the past. Even cities that were entirely real take on a dreamlike glow in our minds. This second life, in art and story, is its own kind of immortality, to consider how the lost cities haunt our imagination, inspiring paintings, poems, and dreams across the generations, becoming symbols of all that is mysterious and beautiful about the past, is to feel that these vanished places are not truly gone at all, but live on warmly in the human heart, gently lighting our dreams with the wonder of worlds that once were. Ruins grow strangely more beautiful as nature softens them. There's a particular beauty to a ruin that a whole, living building does not have, a beauty born of time, of stone softened by weather, of green life threading through old walls, of the gentle melancholy of grandeur passing into peace. Trees frame fallen columns, moss and flowers soften broken stone. The harsh edges of construction mellow into something tender and lovely. People have long found deep peace and pleasure in wandering among such ruins, where the works of humanity and the patience of nature meet and blend. To imagine standing in a beautiful ruin at evening, the low sun gilding the old stones, ivy and wildflowers growing where roofs once were, birds singing in halls open now to the sky, is to feel that the slow softening of a city into a ruin is not only a loss, but, in its quiet way, a kind of gentle gift, a beauty that only time and nature working together could ever make. We can now rebuild lost cities whole within the glowing screen. Though the lost cities themselves lie broken, we have found new ways to see them whole again. Using all that careful study reveals, artists and scholars now reconstruct vanished cities in vivid detail, on paper and within the glowing world of the computer, raising the fallen walls, restoring the colors, and filling the empty streets with imagined life, so that we may walk through them as they once were. A pile of stones becomes again on the screen a living city in the sun. It is a gentle act of resurrection, a way of honoring and understanding what was lost. To imagine seeing such a reconstruction, a ruined and silent city restored before your eyes to its full ancient glory, its temples painted, its fountains flowing, its markets full, all built faithfully from the patient evidence of the stones, is to feel the lost city live again, for a moment, in the kindest of all its second lives. The rising seas of the future may make new lost cities of our own. Just as ancient cities were drowned when the seas rose after the ice ages, so the slow rising of the seas in ages to come may, in time, claim coastal cities of our own world, adding them one day to the long roll of sunken places. It is a sobering thought, yet also a strangely peaceful one, to see our own great cities as part of the same long story, neither the first nor the last, simply the current chapter in the endless cycle of cities rising and returning to the earth and the sea. To imagine some far-off future in which a few of today's familiar shores rest quietly beneath the waves, gently joining the ancient drowned cities in their long sleep, is not only a warning but a kind of calm perspective, a reminder that we too are part of the great patient rhythm of the world, and that this rhythm in the end is a gentle one. Some cities were abandoned before they were ever finished. Among the most wistful of lost places are the cities and monuments that were never completed. Building projects begun with great ambition and left, half raised, when the money, the power, or the will ran out, or the people simply moved on. An unfinished temple, a half-carved monument, a planned city only partly built. These were lost before they ever fully lived, their grand intentions frozen forever at the moment they were set down. We can read in them not what was, but what was hoped for. To imagine such a place, a great work stopped in the middle, the tools laid down and never taken up again, an ambition left standing incomplete beneath the sky for 1,000 years, is to feel a gentle tenderness for the dreams of the past, for all the grand plans that quietly came to nothing, resting now, unfinished and peaceful, among the other lost works of long vanished hands. The lost cities are loveliest and most at peace by moonlight. There is a reason that ruins and lost cities seem most beautiful in the soft light of evening and the silver of the moon. By day, under a bright sun, a ruin can look merely broken, but at dusk and by night, the gentle light hides the harshness, softens the edges, fills the empty halls with shadow and quiet mystery, and the lost city seems to dream. Travelers have always known that the magic of ruins deepens as the light fades. To imagine a lost city by moonlight, its pale stones glowing softly, its empty windows full of stars, its silent plazas washed in gentle silver, the whole sleeping place wrapped in a deep and peaceful hush, is to see it at its most beautiful and its most serene, no longer a sad remnant, but a place of calm and quiet wonder, resting under the same moon that watched over it when it was young and full of life. Nature reclaims the cities not in anger, but with patience. When we watch the jungle swallow a temple or the sand fill a house, it can seem as though nature is erasing the works of people. But there is no malice in it, only patience. The roots grow because that is what roots do. The sand drifts because the wind blows. The moss spreads softly because the stone is there. Nature does not destroy the lost cities so much as gently gather them back, weaving them slowly into the living world until ruin and forest, stone and sand become one peaceful whole. There's deep calm in this, not a battle, but a homecoming. To imagine the slow, untroubled way that vines wrap a wall and trees rise through a plaza, the green world simply and patiently taking the city back into itself across the centuries, is to feel that the loss of a city is also a kind of gentle reunion, the works of people returning softly to the earth that made us all. Every great city alive today will one day be ancient too. It is worth remembering gently and without fear that the lost cities were once as alive and busy and modern to their own people as our cities are to us. The people of Pompeii or Angkor or Ur didn't think of themselves as ancient. They thought of themselves as now, going about their days in the height of their world. And so our own great cities, too, are simply the latest in the long line, and will one day be old, then ancient, then perhaps lost and found again by people far in the future. There is no sorrow in this, only a calm and steadying perspective. To consider that our familiar streets will someday be the quiet ruins that future visitors wander through with wonder is not a sad thought, but a peaceful one, placing us gently within the great unhurried flow of time, fellow travelers with all the lost cities that came before. The lost cities hold no sorrow now, only deep peace. Whatever endings they met, whether sudden disaster or slow fading, the lost cities have long since passed beyond all trouble, and what remains is only peace. The fear, the loss, the struggles of their final days are over now. Age is over, and the silent stones hold no pain, only the deep calm of long rest. To walk among them is to feel not grief, but a profound and gentle quiet, the serenity of things that have completed their long day and lain down to sleep. This is perhaps the deepest comfort the lost cities offer. To imagine standing in such a place in the stillness of evening, knowing that all its old sorrows are long healed, that nothing now disturbs its rest, that it lies wrapped in a peace deeper and older than memory, is to feel that same peace settle gently over oneself. the great quiet of the past, offering its calm freely to all who come, softly, to visit. The first sight of a lost city has filled explorers with awe for ages. Across the centuries, those who first came upon a lost city, breaking through the jungle to find a temple rising before them, or cresting a ridge to see a sunken plaza below, have described the same overwhelming feeling, a kind of breathless wonder, a hush, as if they had stepped out of their own time into another. To stand suddenly before the silent works of a vanished people, in a place untouched for ages, is one of the most profound experiences a person can have. It humbles and stills the heart. To imagine that moment of discovery, an explorer standing motionless at the edge of a forgotten city, the silence vast around them, the carved stones of a lost world glowing in the light, the long centuries of its sleep pressing gently upon the air, is to share in one of the deepest of human wonders, the quiet astonishment of finding the past still waiting, patient and serene. So much of the lost cities is gone forever, and that is part of their peace. For all that we recover, we must accept that most of what the lost cities knew is gone beyond return. Their music, their voices, their daily jokes and prayers, the names of nearly all who lived there, the stories they told their children at night. We catch only fragments and must let the rest rest. There is a gentle wisdom in accepting this, in loving what survives without grasping after all that does not. The lost cities teach us to hold the past tenderly and lightly. To consider all that has slipped away from even the best preserved of them, and to feel, instead of frustration, a soft acceptance, a peace with the natural fading of things, is to receive one of the kindest gifts the past can give. The gentle understanding that not everything must be kept, that it is right and natural for most things to pass quietly into rest, as one day we ourselves will. The lost cities remind us gently to treasure the living day. Perhaps the deepest gift of the lost cities is what they whisper about our own brief, bright lives. They show us that all things pass, that the busiest street will one day be silent, that nothing lasts forever, and yet, far from being a sad lesson, this can be a tender and freeing one. For if all things pass, then this present evening, this quiet moment, this warm and ordinary life is precious beyond measure, to be savored gently while it is here. The lost cities in their deep peace do not mourn. They simply remind us to love the living day, to hold that thought as sleep draws near, that we are here now, alive and warm, in our own brief and beautiful turn upon the earth, and that this is enough and good, is to receive the lost city's kindest teaching and to let it settle over us like a soft and grateful calm. And so the lost cities sleep on, and tonight, gently, so may you. All across the world, as the night deepens, the lost cities rest in their long silence, temples wrapped in roots, streets beneath the sand, plazas under still water, whole forgotten worlds held softly in the dark. They ask nothing and fear nothing. Their long day is done, and they lie at peace, waiting only for the slow turning of time. We have wandered among them tonight as quiet visitors, and now it is time to leave them to their rest and to find our own. The same gentle dark that wraps the sleeping cities wraps us too, and the same deep peace is offered to us all. So let the ruins fade softly into the night behind us, their stones cooling under the rising moon. There's nothing left to find and nowhere left to go. Like the lost cities, you may lay down the long day now and rest, held safely in the great and gentle quiet of the world. Tonight we wander together through the quiet ruins of the world, the lost cities that time and silence have gently reclaimed. We walked the streets of Pompeii frozen in ash, climbed to Machu Picchu among the clouds, and drifted past temples wrapped in jungle roots and statues resting on the seafloor. We saw cities swallowed by sand and forest and water, found again by chance and by patience, and felt how even the mightiest places pass, in the end, into a deep and peaceful rest. And through it all ran the gentlest of truths, that all things fade softly, that nature reclaims with patience, and that the past holds no sorrow now, only calm. There is nothing left to explore tonight. When you are ready, another quiet journey will be waiting here for you, ready to carry you onward into another evening. If these calm hours help you rest, a soft follow helps other tired minds find this peaceful place too. But for now, let the lost cities fade into the dark, and let the day's cares fade with them. Let your breathing slow, and let yourself sink into the same gentle quiet that holds all the sleeping cities of the world. You are safe, and the night will keep everything without you. Rest well, and sweet dreams.